methods. But coming to the unit number 2, and in unit number 2, we are discussing that the application of the finite element method on a trusses as well as beams. So this we have discussed elaborately in unit number 2 also. So the next one would be so up to unit 1 and unit 2, we consider it as a one-dimensional member in a local coordinate system. As per the local coordinate system, we can assume that as a both stepped bars, trusses, as well as beams. We call those are as a one-dimensional elements with respect to the local coordinate parameter. Here, it is very important to know that the local coordinate parameter and the global coordinate parameter. So you know that one, the global coordinate parameters are in x comma y directions. Okay, so you know that the x and y direction and z directions. So these coordinate systems are called as a global coordinate system. So this type of representation is called as a global coordinate system. So according to this, we can call as a three-dimensional members, two-dimensional member, or one-dimensional member. So one-dimensional members are only function of only one coordinate, that is called x. But whereas two-dimensional members are, it may be the function of x comma y or y comma z or z comma x. But only it is a function of the two coordinates. But whereas three-dimensional members, it is a function of the x comma y comma z. This is a known thing for us. This is called as a entire thing is called as a global coordinate system. This is called global coordinate system. So, but whereas the local coordinate system is also expressed similar to the x comma y comma z, but the notation is in x direction we can mention this as a zeta, and in y direction similar to y direction we can mention this as a eta, and in z direction we can mention this as a theta. Okay, so these three representations are very, very important. So coming to the difference between the local coordinate system as well as the global coordinate system. Here, the x may be any number. It may be any number. It may be the -1, it may be the -1000, or it may be the +1000. So it may be that any number. Similarly, y also any number and z also any number. But coming to the local coordinate system, there is a restriction to express the length of an element in the zeta directions, eta direction, and theta direction. In zeta direction, the element can be expressed for a length of -1 comma +1 only. Similarly, eta direction, it is going to be expressed as 1 comma +1 only. Similarly, theta direction, it is possible to express as -1 to +1 only. So this would be the more advantage for the finite element methods. So the local coordinate systems are giving that more advantages, and it will be reduce the complexity of the given problem. So the given problem, let us say the given problem in x direction, let us say 50 units. But whereas coming to that, let us say this has a 50 units. So this length 0 to, and at the end it is a 50 units. But whereas same element, if you draw in the local coordinate system, it is expressed from the x direction means -1 to +1, means that the zeta is expressing that -1 to +1. This would be the different. Similarly, for example, y coordinate, let us say the y coordinate is equal 100. So, but this 100 parameter can be expressed in a local coordinates, that is equal, eta is equal to the -1 to the +1 only. So, but -1 to +1 represent that this 100 units. So that would be the what is that advantages for doing the finite element analysis in a simpler manner. So that's why in major portion we are going to define the global coordinate system as well as local coordinate system. So with this basics, let us move to the unit number 3. Now, So what you are going to deal in the unit number 3. So in unit number 3, we talk about that two parts. So there is a two sessions are there. One is called as a constant strain triangle. That is the first part of the unit 3. And second part will be the axisymmetric. Okay, second part would be it is called axisymmetric element. So we're going to talk about that constant strain triangle in the first session, and the axisymmetric would be the second session of the unit number 3. But for the midpoint of view, you're going to get that only up to the constant strain triangle. Up to here only the mid-examination portion. Okay, mid-examination 1. So this will be in the mid 2. Axisymmetric would be the mid 2. So let us more focus on to the first unit concept. Okay, our first mid-examination concept. So in first unit number 3, the first part is talk about that the finite element method of a two-dimensional members, and mostly we are going to do that the stress analysis for a given problem by using the two-dimensional approach. And then we define that what would be the CST. This is a very, very important word and a very useful word. CST is nothing but constant strain triangle. C means constant, S stand for strain, and T for triangle. So means that it is a simple triangular element. In a discretization process, we are going to use this CST element. CST means constant strain triangle. So this would be in the triangle in nature, and this element is going to use for the meshing. In a software, we can call this as a meshing, or in a FEM, we can call this as a discretization. So in the discretization process, we are going to use the CST element for two-dimensional analysis. We're going to see that how we are going to assume that two-dimensional member for a given problem. Let's see after this slide. Next one, we'll go to focus that what would be the term of Jacobian matrix. This will be useful for solving the stiffness matrix. And moreover, this would be very, very important one. So the Jacobian matrix can be defined for both CST as well as axisymmetric elements. So for this element also, it is possible to define the Jacobian matrix, and we're going to define that in the later classes. Okay, one by one we're going to complete it. Then after defining the Jacobian matrix, we're going to focus on the what is the stiffness matrix formula for the CST element. So for constant strain triangle, we have to define the what is that stiffness matrix formula. That we're going to see in the first part of unit 3. Then after that, we're going to focus on what would be the temperature effect on a two-dimensional finite element analysis. That also going to be see that the temperature effect, and later we're going to see that the problems which are related to the temperature effects, as well as the external loads, as well as the body forces, as well as traction forces. These are different types of loading conditions, and based upon the loading condition, we're going to deal with the problems. This is the first part. Coming to the second part, and we are going to talk about the axisymmetric elements. And in that axisymmetric element, we majorly talk about that what would be the B matrix and what would be the D matrix. This will be, we're going to define that whenever we go for the derivation. And also in this one also, we're going to define the Jacobian, and we're going to see that at the end of the second part, we're going to see that the problems. So this would be the entire planning for the unit number 3. Let us start with the unit number 3. And here we'll take that the simple example, and this is called as it is a three-dimensional member. Let us assume that it is a three-dimensional member, but how you are going to be convert this three-dimensional member into a two-dimensional problem. Okay, so that is very, very important. So here, if you see that this three-dimensional member, there is like a thin plate. The plate thickness is very small. But whereas the length and height would be as compared to the thickness, it is more. So here there is a three-dimensional member, but in x and y direction dimensions are more as compared to the z direction coordinate values. So this is a simple thin plate or thin plate having a thickness of T, and in center there is a hole. There is a hole, and here the load would be the traction load. The traction load is nothing but force per unit length. Force per unit length. So this much of traction force is acting. So whenever this type of cases are there, we are going to assume this as a, and we are going to convert this into a two-dimensional problem, because one dimension as compared to the other two dimension is very small. We are going to neglect, and the type of load is for what is a traction force is applied. So therefore, we're going to consider this as a two-dimensional member. So this simple thin plates can be solved by using the two-dimensional member. So if you take that very thin plate and if you use that in the discretization, and there is a triangle elements, therefore it is possible to do the two-dimensional complete analysis. So if you use the CST element for the discretization of this entire element, therefore it is comes under the two-dimensional constant strain triangle finite element analysis problem. Okay, so coming to that, the two-dimensional problems. So coming to the two-dimensional problem, this two-dimensional problem generally falls into two categories. The first one is called as a plane stress, and second one is called as a plane strain. So these two are very, very important. In the last class also we have a given that the small introduction about the plane stress and plane strain. So generally the two-dimensional problems are classified into two types, that is called plane stress, plane strain. So before understanding the unit number 3, let us talk about the what would be the plane stress. So plane stress is a three-dimensional member, no doubt, but we are converted into the two-dimensional member by assuming that one of the coordinate value is a very small as compared to the another two. So therefore, it comes under the two-dimensional category problem or two-dimensional execution of the finite element analysis category. So these two-dimensional problems can be classified into the plane stress and the plane strain. The plane stress will be defined that the thin plate can be analyzed as a plane stress problem, where the normal and shear stress, perpendicular to the xy plane. Here, x is a more dimensions as well as y is more dimension. Perpendicular to this means on the z. So perpendicular to this x as well as y plane, the stresses are normal stress as well as shear stress are assumed to be 0. Means that the sigma z is going to be 0, and tau of xy, that is called shear stress in the x plane but z direction. Similarly, on tau of yz, y plane in the z direction will become the 0. Means that in a three-dimensional member, in unit number, we have defined that there will be 6 stresses. Apart that 6 stresses, 3 are the normal stresses and 3 are the shear stresses. Okay, so in these 3 normal stresses, 1 normal stress is reduced, means that for two-dimensional plane stress, the normal stresses are 2 in normal stresses, as well as the shear stresses are, it is in 1 number, because the tau xz, tau yz are going to be 0. So in a three-dimensional member, I said that there is a 6 independent stresses, and those are 3 normal, 3 shear stress. In that one normal stress is 0, means 3 minus 1. It becomes that in two-dimensional analysis, 2 normal stresses are present, as well as 2 shear stresses are 0 in a plane stress condition. Therefore, 3 shear stresses are present in the three-dimensional. Only 3 minus 2 become that 1. So only 1 shear stress is present. So total stresses are present in the two-dimensional plane stress would be the 3 only. This is a very, very important. Why? Because the third direction normal stresses and shear stresses are become 0 when you assume it as a two-dimensional member, and when you go into execute the plane stress condition. Very, very important. The plane stress condition you are going to be executing. So the remaining non-zero stresses are means if sigma z is 0, 2 normal stresses are, that is called sigma xx, sigma yy. this not become 0. And similarly, the tau of xy will be present. So means that there is only 3 stresses are present. So two is the normal stresses, one is a shear stresses. So this is all about that plane stress condition. Now come to the plane strain. So where this plane strain is useful and where you are going to be execute this plane strain problem. So whenever that any dam, here you can see that the dam, you can see the dam here, a dam is subjected to a uniform pressure. See here, this is called as a uniform pressure and it is applicable. So whenever this dam is subjected to the uniform pressure, so this type of applications comes under a plane strain condition. Let us define the what would be the plane strain condition. Okay, so the strain components perpendicular to the xy plane are assumed to be 0. So this is one of the very, very important. In a plane stress, what we are going to do that, what we done here, there we done that the perpendicular to the xy plane, the stresses are going to be 0. That's why we call that as a plane stress condition. But coming to the plane strain, the perpendicular to the xy plane, if you consider that x comma y are the applicable dimensions as compared to the z, therefore perpendicular to this xy planes, the strains becomes 0. So those are called as one is called as a normal strain, that is called sigma zz, and next one would be the gamma of xz, that is called x plane in the z direction, and gamma of yz and y plane in the z direction. This 3 becomes 0. Okay, so now I know that one in a three-dimensional member there is a 6 independent strains are there. Apart the 6, 3 are normal and 3 are shear strain. But coming to the two-dimensional member, we assume that one of the perpendicular direction strains are become 0. So means that the one normal strain becomes 0. Therefore, 2 normal strains are existed as well as 1 shear strain is existed. So therefore, in a two-dimensional analysis, the number of independent strains are only 3. Number of independent strains are 3. Another example for the plane strain is the water is flowing in a pipe. Is subjected with a uniform pressure. Nothing but the pipe is under uniform internal pressure. So this type of case comes under the example of the plane strain. So now at this point of time, I know that one there is a, if a two-dimensional member is existed, if two-dimensional member is existed in any two-dimensional member, there will be a 3 stresses as well as 3 strains. In this 3 stress, there are the 2 normal stresses and 1 shear stress. Coming to the strains, there would be a 2 normal strains and 1 would be the shear strain. So this would be the condition for the two-dimensional finite element analysis problem. So very, very important. I'm going to repeat again. In a two-dimensional member, the independent stresses are 3, independent strains are 3. So the stress matrix can be defined as here. It is equal to the sigma xx, sigma yy, and tau of xy. So always the stress matrix is a column matrix only. Similarly, the strains can be defined as, strain matrix can be defined as epsilon xx or epsilon x simply, epsilon yy, and gamma of xy or yx. So these are the stresses that are present in any two-dimensional member. These are the stresses as well as strains present in any two-dimensional member. Now coming to the next category, general loading condition in a two-dimensional member. This would be the very, very important. So general loading condition, then after that we're going to be see that one important one related to the CST element. So here the general loading condition in a two-dimensional body can be subjected to the 3 types of forces. One is called as a concentrate loads at I. So let us say that this would be the two-dimensional member. So at point I, so there would be a I would be the point. The I is subjected with the two-dimensional member only. It may be subjected with x comma y only. So means that in x direction there would be a point load is possible to apply. In y direction there is a possible to apply the point load. That is called the concentrated load or point loads. The concentrated forces are load that is called Px, Py at a point I. This is one of the possible loading condition. Then second possible loading condition would be the body forces in x direction and y direction acting at centroid. See here, if you take any body, it has a centroid. Let us say this has a centroid point, okay, or center of gravity. So at this centroid, the body forces are concentrated in x as well as a y direction. So this is also possible loading condition in a two-dimensional member. Then third possible loading condition would be the traction force. That is nothing but force per unit length. So acting along the perimeter. So if the perimeter of the given object is there, it can be acting on a perimeter. You can see here, this would be the arrows and that will be acting on a given geometric perimeter. Okay, so these are also one of the possible loading condition in any two-dimensional member. Now, the very important thing is, so here the same domain I have considered, I would like to take this as a one simple point. So at this point, let us try to understanding that what would be the deflection. So I would like to say this as a simple point, and at this point I would like to specify that the coordinate values are x comma y, because the point or nodal point would be a two-dimensional one. It may have that x comma y coordinate values. Similarly, in x direction there would be a displacement that is called u. In y direction there would be a displacement v. So here it is say that in a two-dimensional body experience a deformation due to the applied loads. At any point in the body there are the two components of displacement. That is, in x direction we can say the displacement in x direction, that is called u, and in y direction we can say the displacement in y direction. So these are the one of the very important parameter or notation. Now, just now I have defined the stress as well as strains. So I know that one in a two-dimensional member, so there would be a three strain components as well as stress component. Here, let us define the first strain matrix. I said that the strain matrix would be it is always column matrix, and it must have a 3 rows and 1 column. So I know that one in two-dimensional member, epsilon xx present, epsilon yy present, and gamma of xy present. And here, the epsilon xx can be defined as, that is called strain in plane x direction, that will be defined as dou u by dou x, because just now I have defined that u would be the displacement in x direction and v would be the displacement in y direction. So therefore epsilon xx can be written as dou u by dou x. Similarly, epsilon yy can be written as it is equal to the differentiation of v with respect to the y. So similarly, the gamma of the shear strain in x plane y direction can be defined as it is equal to the dou u by, you have to be x direction u, then that you have to differentiate with respect to the y. So dou u by dou y plus dou v by dou x. This would be the very important. So gamma of x is nothing but shear strain in a x plane y direction. This is a x plane, this is a y direction. That would be defined as dou u by dou y plus dou v by dou x. And these three parameters have written in a matrix form. Epsilon xx, dou u by dou x, and epsilon yy, dou v by dou y, and gamma of xy, dou u by dou y plus dou v by dou x. Similarly, the corresponding stress matrix would be, it is a 3/1 matrix, because there would be a two normal stresses, that is called sigma xx, sigma yy, and tau of xy or sigma xy, one and side. So this would be the stress and strain matrix for a two-dimensional member. Now, coming to the very important notation. By using Hooke's law, from the basic definition of the Hooke's law, from the basics of strength of material, the Hooke's law states that the stress is directly proportional to the strain within an elastic limit. Or otherwise, the stress is equal to the proportionality matrix. This D is called as a proportional matrix or proportionality constant into strain. And this proportionality constant for one-dimensional member, we can call this as a Young's modulus E. But for two-dimensional as well as three-dimensional member, we are going to call this as it is equal to the D matrix. D matrix. And this is called as a both E as well as a D. These are called as a proportionality constants. Proportionality constants. Or we can say it is called as a material properties. Material properties. What it's telling? What is a material property? For example, for aluminum, so there is a fixed of E as well as D matrix. For copper, there would be a fixing of E as well as D. So means that these are our constant values only. The E as well as D are the constant values, and these are belongs to the material property for a given material. If given material is aluminum, the Young's modulus is constant, as well as if it is a two-dimensional, three-dimensional problem, it will be the D matrix would be the constant. So that is very, very important. So here I'm talking about the two-dimensional members. So therefore, this sigma is equal to 3 by 1, I know, and epsilon is also 3 by 1. So LHS must be equal to the RHS. To satisfy this equation, 3 by 1 must be equal to the 3 by 1. Then only it is satisfied. Means that already strain is equal to 3 by 1, and this D matrix must be equal to the 3 by 3 only. So if that is the case, then only the equation is satisfied. Otherwise, it is very difficult to satisfy LHS to the RHS. So means that always the D matrix would be the 3 by 3 in case of the two-dimensional problems. In case of the two-dimensional problem. So now the D matrix would be differ for plane stress as well as a plane strain. So for plane stress, the D matrix is defined here. That is equal E by 1 minus mu. So where E is equal to the Young's modulus, that would be constant. Young's modulus. And where mu, mu is called as a Poisson ratio. This Poisson ratio is also constant for a given material. So if you know the Young's modulus, if you know the Poisson ratio, with the help of these two parameters, it is possible to calculate the D matrix for a plane stress condition. For plane stress condition, you have to use D as this formula. For plane strain conditions, you have to use D matrix formula is this one. So that is very, very important. In a given problem, he may be mentioned that the problem belongs to the plane stress or plane strain. If you mention that plane stress, you should use the D matrix would be E by 1 minus mu square into this 3 by 3 matrix. That is called 1 mu 0, mu 1 0, 0 0, 1 minus mu by 2. If it is a problem is belongs to the plane strain condition, the D matrix can be used of that E by 1 plus mu into 1 minus 2 mu into 1 minus mu, mu as well as 0, and mu 1 minus mu 0, 0 0, half minus mu. So this would be the very, very important condition for the plane stress, plane strain conditions. Now, the next variety would be the, see here, just now we have taken that the simple arbitrary domain. So this is called a simple arbitrary domain. What we have done here in this figure, if you observe that one, this is a simple example of the discretized objective. Means that the circle is a given problem. So our domain would be the circular. So the circle is how discretized into the number of triangles. If you see here, the triangle number 1, 2, 3, and like that, and 7, 20, and up to the maximum numbers I have put down, up to the 20. So means that I have divided the entire circle into the 20 different triangles. Means that I'm using triangle as an element and have done the discretization of given circle by using the triangle element. So this is the meaning of this figure. Again, I'm repeating the meaning of this figure. It says that it is a discretized object of the circle, and the discretized element would be the triangle element, and it is discretized up to the 20 elements. That is the whole thing. And if you observe that one, there will be some nodal points also there. These are the 1, 2, as well as there will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like that, nodal numbers are there. But in any given triangle, there will be a 3 nodals. One is that this is a nodal number 1, and this is a nodal number 2, and this will be the nodal number 3. So these are the 3 nodal numbers for each and every triangle. So this is a best example of the discretize of the given circular object by using the triangle element. Now, coming to here, there are the node 1, node 2. Let us see. The unfilled region, here you can observe that some of the unfilled regions are there, exist for curved boundaries and affecting the accuracy of the solution. The accuracy can be improved by using the smaller elements. You can use the smaller triangle element here to increase the accuracy of the given objective. Okay, given objective. So means that here there will be only 20 elements are used for discretization. If you go for the more number of elements, therefore the accuracy is going to be increased. The accuracy is going to be increased. This is one of the important fundamental principle in any finite element analysis. In a finite element analysis, if the number of elements are increased, therefore it is possible to say that there will be a accuracy is more. Accuracy is more. The next one would be there are the 2 displacement components at each and every nodal point. I said that each and every triangle having a 3 nodal point. So every nodal point having a displacement in x direction as well as y direction. So in x directional displacement, we can say q or u, and that would be say that 2 of j minus 1, where j is equal to the 1 to n. So if the at nodal point 1 means that j becomes that 1. If nodal point 2 means j becomes 2. If nodal point 3 means j becomes 3. So like that, j is equal 1 to n nodal point. That would be in x direction, it becomes that q of 2j minus 1. In y direction, it is defined as q of j. For example, let us see that at nodal point 3 means that at j is equal to 3. Therefore, the x directional displacement according to this notation, it specifies that q of 2 into 3 become that 6. 6 minus 1 become that it is called 5. This is in the x direction. Similarly, the y direction become that the q into 2 of j is equal to 3, and it becomes that 6. Q of 6. This is in the y direction. So this is a way to represent the x comma y deflections for a given nodal point. So these are some of the notation with reference to this notation. See here, we can see that one of the simple objective, this is called as a bracket. So here, this bracket is analyzed by a triangle element. This bracket is analyzed by a simple triangle.